So I was gonna make this part of talk about this movie in my series. What have I been watching? But I felt like after a second viewing of the 1956 classic, The Ten Commandments, it was necessary for me to review this because this is a historically fantastic movie. It is one of the most important films ever made. Yet, I don't think it's as great as everyone says it is. So, let's talk about what I love about this movie, but I will also be talking about the silent version throughout this video. The silent version was released in the year, it says right here, 1923. They were both directed by Cedric DeMille, both the 1956 version and the 1923 version. So, okay, the 1923 version is silent. Like I said, it's in black and white. And, like, the sets are great, the costumes are great, but you can't really appreciate them as much. I mean, they're still, like, noticeable and good, but, like, it's in black and white. There's not much to appreciate. So you can't really see how pretty the costumes look, like, with the full color and detail, right? So it's just kind of like, you can't really see that. And it's just the same story as the 1956 version, just simplified and shortened down, because how long can you make this movie? It's silent. Nobody can hear the dialogue. It's still pretty long for a silent film. It's like, I believe it's over 2 hours, or close to that anyways. And for a silent film, I don't think I've ever seen a silent film that long. But it is kind of a worthless movie in a sense because, like, yes, it's important to helping the 1956 version happen, because if that film version hadn't happened, he wouldn't have made the 1956 version. But so it's like historically important, and it's fantastic that Paramount put that version out in this beautiful Blu-ray edition. This is the only way you can get this. So if you just want the 1956 version, this is the exact same Blu-ray release. There's no new special features. There's no update. The point of getting this is that you have the 1923 silent version, and it's got a cool booklet. It's got information and quotes from the film. But I recommend it if you're a really big fan of this movie and you want to see the silent version. It's kind of what it looks like. You know, there's some information on the silent version. There's barely any information on the silent version. Most of this thing talks about the 1956 version because it's just the better film. It's not my favorite film version of the Ten Commandments because... Now, I'm not reviewing this as a religious person. Yes, this is based on a religious biblical story, but I'm reviewing it as a film. And if the film sucks, I don't care what religion you believe, the film sucks. That's just how it is. Like, the film is bad. It doesn't matter what... You can't defend it with, well, it's a great Christian movie. What is that? Okay, but I don't want a great Christian movie. I want a great movie in general. That's what I want. This is what I asked for. This is a great movie. The effects for the time... For 1956, think about this. Okay, we're in the year 2020 at the time recording this video. So, if you had 14 years, it had been, so let's see, 30, okay, so 30, yeah, 40, okay, so this would have been 64 years ago, okay? This is over a century-old film. And the effects of, like, crossing the Red Sea, I still have no idea how they pulled that off. The effect of, like, God imprinting his, like, the commandments into the stone, still have no idea how they pulled that effect off. It can't be done with computers. It can't be done with anything. It has to all be practical, and I'm still amazed by those effects. And it's not that... and like they're, of course we've seen better things now. It doesn't look that amazing. There's way better things out there. Okay, there's stuff out there, yeah, like, oh, there's this that looks way better, but it's not about what looks better. It's not about what, because when you watch older films, you do not watch. Here's my thing. I believe it was Serial at Midnight who said this, great YouTube channel you should check out if you love like older movies, older pop culture things in general. Um, I believe it was him who said this. You do not watch a film on, and like you watch a film on its terms, not your own. So like you watch an older movie, you don't watch it on today's standards. You watch it on the standards it came out on. Okay, Star Wars, for example. The newer Star Wars movies have way better effects. Like the newer trilogy, not like the prequels or whatever. The newer Star Wars trilogy made by Disney. Those effects are gorgeous and look amazing. Those are one aspect nobody can deny about those movies. And you look at the older movies and they're inferior and they look like crap compared to the new stuff, right? But like those effects are amazing. They're still like they're amazing for the time, and so we have to recognize that. We can't crap on something like that because that was the best they could do, and for the best they could do at the time, it's phenomenal. And same thing with this movie. It's amazing effects. And this is a classic Hollywood style epic. So if you don't understand what a Hollywood epic is, because you don't watch like in older movies, because I kind of want to do this older movie things where I review older movies like this. It's very difficult because a lot of younger people don't want to watch older films. And I understand. I was very intimidated by them at a time. I didn't want to sit down and watch the Ten Commandments. I was like, well, it's 3 hours long. What if I'm bored? And then I finally did it, and I liked the film. I didn't love it. This time I loved the film. I don't think it's as good as a movie I'm going to mention later, and I will be doing a review for this now that I've seen the 1956 version again. It's kind of one of the main reasons I rewatched the film. But it's the fact that the reason why, so kind of like I have to express what makes this film important, worth seeing. Yes, this movie is over 3 hours. First off, if you're intimidated by the runtime, it is split into 2 discs. So you can watch the first 2 hours of the film and then come back and watch an hour and a half of the rest of the film. You could do that in 2 days if you really wanted to. You could watch it in segments. You don't have to watch this movie in one sitting. But what a Hollywood style epic is, it's a film that is big in scale. It's huge, it's massive. So like it's something that only a film would be able to do. This big massive scale with big effects. It's grandiose, it's massive, it has a beautiful score, it has these fantastic performances that are over the top and insane, and that's what a big Hollywood epic is. And that's what this film is. And it's really good at being that. Like the effects, the costumes, they're massive and grandiose, and it makes you feel small while you're watching the film, and it's like, wow. And the performances are amazing because they're over the top, they're overly serious, they're overly dramatic, but it's perfect for this big Hollywood epic style movie, and the score here is one of the best film scores ever. It perfectly encapsulates the film. It matches the film perfectly. There are some film scores that I can want to listen to outside the film. Lord of the Rings, for example, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, E.T., Jaws. Those are all Superman. These are all scores that I don't listen to with the context of the movie. This is the type of score where you need the context of the movie, but it really improves the movie. If the score was not there, this film would be utterly worthless. But I think this is the perfect older type Hollywood movie to watch because it is so historically important, but it's still impressive today, and I think it's an important film. However, my criticism has always been of this movie, there is no characters. What is Moses feeling throughout the story? Like, yes, the character of Moses has an arc, but it's the arc within the Bible. Okay, so then the story is that Moses is a Hebrew slave baby, and his mom's like, okay, look, he's gonna kill you. Pharaoh's gonna kill you because he doesn't want any threats to his power. And so he's been prophesied that there's going to be all these threats to his power, so he's trying to kill off these babies. So you're going to be next. So he sends him down the river, and then Pharaoh's wife actually finds him, raises him to be her son, and Moses grows up and is like, realizes, oh, I was actually one of these people that who were my slaves. I treated these people like slaves, and I'm actually one of them. Holy crap. And then then God's like, yeah, you gotta go free those people. And he's like, yeah, go free them. And he's like, I don't really want to do that, but okay, I'll do that for you. And then, he goes and does that and fights his brother, crosses the Red Sea with all these people, brings them to the promised land, right? That's the story in a nutshell. Of course, there's the more context to that within the film. One thing I always forget every time I watch this movie, and I've only seen it twice, is that there is the Ten Commandments aspect, right? Because the aspect of it's always a weird story. Even reading the Bible, I'm like, what? This seems really unrealistic. Because at the end of the story, right, Moses freed all these people. They literally watched this man open the ocean. Okay, he opened the ocean for them to cross the river. And then these people started worshiping a false idol of God. And then he had to make commandments to get them to kind of stop it. Huh? I don't understand how people can be that bad. If it seems so unrealistic to me, but I don't know. I always felt like that's a weird part, and so I always liked that the Prince of Egypt, which this finally gets to this film, cut that out, and because it is such a strange aspect to me, I don't really understand that aspect of the film. I love this movie. Okay. This is a DreamWorks animated film. It is not it's different from the Ten Commandments. It's animated, it's slimmed down, it's shorter, and it's got songs. It's a musical, but I think that's the better version. And the reason why is because this is a great Hollywood epic. It's one of the most important films ever made. It's a great film, and you should watch it. It's everybody should at least see this movie once in their life because it's so important to filmmaking. And if you like a huge film buff, you probably have already seen this movie, right? But like I said, Moses has a journey throughout the movie, but what is the point of, do you feel with Moses? Do you understand where he's coming from? Do you feel for Ramesses, his brother? Excuse me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. It's a very hard name to pronounce. Do you feel for that aspect of the story? Think about it. Do you feel anything when you're watching that part of the story? Do you? I don't. I don't feel anything. Because you're not meant to feel anything. You're watching the story just play out in this big Hollywood epic, grandiose way. And as that, it's great. It's fantastic. But in terms of me wanting a story with characters, I got a story, but I don't really have characters. I mean, the characters do things, but they're doing things in a way that's kind of yeah, we're just doing things. I don't know how to explain it because it's not like the characters don't have arcs. It's just that you can't feel with them because you're not meant to feel with them. And the story and the performances work for this grand Hollywood epic type movie that this movie's trying to be, but in terms of but the performances don't really work for getting you to feel with them. There isn't a moment where Moses comes back, looks at his brother, and is so in the Prince of Egypt, it's the same story, just the Ten Commandments part is cut out, which is, my opinion, better. And you see the story. Okay. And Moses accidentally kills a man, and he leaves. So he comes back. He comes back years later, and he's like, and him and his brother meet up again. They're like happy to see each other. They're like reuniting, and then he's like, I'm really excited for the things to go back to the way they were. And he's like, no, you can't go back to that. And you can see the anger and the frustration, and there's all this sadness throughout the movie. Like, you don't, like, it's not like Moses wants to do this. You feel the anger and frustration between these two brothers so much more dynamic. It's the same story, but it's told in a much more powerful way that resonates with me more. Because, I mean, I obviously wasn't raised to be something I'm not. But I mean, you know, you understand where both brothers are coming from. You know, the brother was raised to realizes the hypocrisy of everything they've been doing and what's wrong with their society. You know, slavery is wrong. He doesn't want to be a part of this. He wants to do what's right for his people. And then, you know, you got Ramesses over here is like, but this is what I've always been taught. You know, because of you, I've always been treated like the disappointment. But I got to take over the empire. I'm supposed to carry on my parents' wishes, you know, because I was always viewed as the disappointment. I don't want to be the disappointment here. So, you know, there's all this complex morality, and, you know, how Moses stresses constantly throughout the movie that he doesn't want to do this, you know. And in this version, it's not that Moses completely wants to do it, but it's like you don't really fear the fear or when he hears God telling him things to do, right? You don't fear. He doesn't. You don't fear it. He doesn't. You don't feel the fear that he feels in that scene. It's not really fear. It's like kind of like, like he's in shock, and he's like, "What are you?" You know, he's nervous, and you know, you feel it within that scene, and it's a powerful scene, and it resonates with you, and you think about it, and it's just like, wow, this film is so good at doing that. And, like, this film is great. And I'm not going to underestimate everything this did. I'm not going to say this is a bad film, because of course it's not. But this is the better film at making you feel emotions. This is the better at being the historically important film. Neither film is bad. They are both great films within their own right. But in terms of which adaptation is better, right here. But like I said, the silent film and the 1956 version are great films. They're important films. I think everybody should watch the 1956 version. Of course, most film buffs, most people love movies, have already seen this fantastic film. If you haven't, if you're intimidated by older movies, let me just say this. It's like the argument when people say, I don't want to teach about the Founding Fathers, right, in school. Okay, so what you're saying is you want to benefit from everything that they built within this country. I'm not trying to get political. I'm using it as an example. So you're taking these people who built this thing, and then you're going, yeah, let's not learn about you, so let's just benefit off of what you built. So when you say that, it's kind of a messed up thing, right? Think about that as older films. Older films, you want to say, let's not watch older films, okay? So you want to benefit by watching the new movies that come out that are based around what these things built, And so what these films built is important. And so, having that context of the history of how this thing that you like has come to be is much better, right? Because what's better? Watching The Joker and thinking it's a great movie and totally original, or watching Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, what The Joker is based on? Having that added context to go, oh yeah, this is still good, but these are so much better movies, right? You have the added context of two other films. If you see what I'm saying here, it's important to know history and be aware of the things from our past, not only so we don't make the same mistakes from the past, but also to, have further context and be able to appreciate things more. Like, you may really like the Joker, but then when you see Taxi Driver, it's like, oh, it influenced this, and this is Taxi Driver is a great movie, and then you see all the things that Taxi Driver influenced, and then you see what influenced Taxi Driver. You know, you got all this added context that makes things so much better. And older films are important because they're a part of history, they're a part of our culture that once was, and learning about history and culture is definitely important for the future and the past. And I think it's really fascinating. And I think it's a discussion that's important, why I think older films are important. And this is one of my favorite older type films. I think it's one of everyone's favorite older type movies. Same thing with films like Casablanca, Gone with the Winds, things like those. Those are just really classic older movies that everybody loves. Like apparently Gone with the Winds is racist, even though it's not. But yeah, I mean, I love the film.